Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Jack-O-Lanterns, and I'm sipping on some pumpkin spice coffee. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, burnt umber, deep yellow, burnt sienna, which I sometimes call rust, chrome orange, fire red, and Mars black. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 1-inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 6 bright synthetic brush, and I have a number 3 round synthetic brush. And I might call these small, medium, and large, or I'll just call them out by their name as I use them. And of course you can switch those up as well. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my small round to demonstrate how to pre-mix a custom color. The color that we're going to be painting as our base coat is going to be a gray color. I'm going to be using brown, black, and white to create that, and then we'll just paint the whole canvas with that color. So I have pre-mixed myself my gray tone so you can see where I am headed. So this is the color I'm going for in through here. It's a pretty medium to dark gray. It definitely is lighter than black. You can see my black right next to it, so you can see how much lighter it is than black. How I achieved this color is a lot of brown and black, and then I used a little bit of white. So brown, black, and just a touch of white. You can always add more white into it to lighten it up if it's too dark for you, but know that it will get a little bit darker as it dries, and we do want it to be light enough for us to add some shadow effects onto it later. So I definitely want to make sure that it's lighter than black. So once I've got, and I added the brown to make it a nice warm gray. So once I've got the color that I want, I'm going to put my mixing tool away, take out my large bristle brush, and paint my entire canvas with this color. I don't need any special brush stroke because this is a type of color that provides good opacity, which means it's difficult to see through this color because it is using white and black in the color mixture. It gives good coverage to the canvas. So you can really paint in any direction you want. And if you do find after you get this step done that you have a little bit of streaking, or you do have the evidence of your the white canvas underneath, that's okay, because we are going to be doing many more details on top of this. This is just referred to as a ground or a base coat or a foundation for the paint to build the future details on top of. So it doesn't very often have to be perfect when you're going for this type of first step, simply because you will be building a lot of stuff on top of it. It helps to tone the other colors as you start building them on top of it. So once I've got this on here, I am going to, before I say that I'm done with this step, what I like to do is I'll take my brush and I just lightly, with a light touch, go back and forth left to right. So this will help me even out or catch any spots that I might have missed, or thin out any spots that might be a little bit extra thick. And then you could certainly paint your edges or the sides of your canvas as well. And then we're going to be using our bright brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put the large brush away, take out your bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the first step for the steps. So I'm going to be using my number 6 bright brush to paint, but I am going to be using my number 3 round to premix another custom color. I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step as well. It'll be a little bit easier that way. So the colors that I'm going to be using in this step are my dark gray, white, and black. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So the custom color that I'm going to be making is a light gray, which I have already done on my palette here. So this is my light gray color in through here. How I achieved this was I used my dark gray and I just added a little bit of white to it. So this is going to be the color that we'll use as the base tone for the top of the steps. And then we're going to be using black as like a little shadow underneath the lip of the step. So this is the color I'm going for here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wash my small brush because I might end up using it as a measuring tool throughout the process. Once I've got my color figured out, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drawing horizontal lines to separate each one of these steps. I'm not going to go for any detail right now, just horizontal lines going across, and I'm going to give you some markers and we'll connect those markers, and by the time we're done we'll have some nice horizontal lines. So I'm going to start on the left hand side of my canvas and I'm going to find myself about the halfway mark, give myself a little mark, and then I can do the same thing over on the right hand side. So if you needed to, if you weren't confident enough that you could just connect these two lines, you could certainly make a couple of other dots at that halfway mark, and then you just connect the dots. So I like to rest my hand on my canvas because I do have a shaky hand. So as I am connecting my dots, I just keep my eye on the prize, which is the next dot, and I just follow through with a continual line. So I'm going to be doing that for all of my steps. The steps, I want to give them perspective, which means I want the bottom ones to look like they're closer to the viewer and the top ones to look like they're farther away. So as they go towards the bottom, they're going to get, the lines are going to be wider and wider, or farther and farther apart. And as they go towards the top, they're going to get more narrow as they go up. This is not mathematically perfect. This is just I'm making these larger by guess. You can certainly do a rendition of a perfect set of stairs and measure it all out, but we're just going to have some fun and paint them bigger as they come down. So on the left hand side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a couple of markers on the left hand side, and then we'll mimic them on the right hand side. So that way, if I make a marker too close or too wide, I'll know that I can adjust it and I'll have space enough for the corresponding steps. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, and then just a little bit of the front of the bottom one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from the bottom almost 2 inches and give myself a little marker, and then I'm going to go back up here and come down from here about, I would say, 2 inches. And then I can almost split the difference between these two. So if I split the difference, that takes me about here. I'm going to go a little bit higher than that. So by the time you get these markers in, this section should be smaller than this section should be smaller than this one, and then you just have a little space at the bottom. So now what I can do is I can take my fancy measuring tool, which is my other paintbrush, and I can say, okay, on this side I brought it to this distance. So I measure it with my finger, and I come over to this side and give myself a marker at about the same height. I can do that with all of them. So then I can take this one and give myself a little measure. That was probably a weird way to hold that. Go over to this side, give myself another marker. And you could do it from the top too. You could say, okay, from here, I've got it about that far away from that one. So then come over on this side and give yourself another marker in through there. So again, just visually, this one's smaller, a little bit bigger, and now you're going to connect your dots. So again, if you needed to, if you needed to make more than one line going across, feel free to do so. Otherwise, just kind of connect your dots. And again, if you are worried about this not being perfect, don't worry. We've got pumpkins and all kinds of other fun stuff coming that's going to help take the eye away from any imperfections that you may have. So now as I go up and through here, I'm going to just make them smaller and smaller as they go up. So I'm going to take, and I have many more stairs at the top than I do at the bottom, so I'm probably just going to go one for one, like one step, and then move up and just make it a little bit smaller. So this one I'm going to come up maybe in through here. So again, I can just take it and measure it from that line, come right to here, give myself a marker, and then just connect those guys like that. And you can, oops, I missed that line. You can see my little wobble. And then you could even say, okay, well, I did this one this high, come to the next marker and do it a little bit lower. So that's going to make the next step a little bit shorter. And then I can mark it like this, give myself a little marker. I'm going to totally run my hand through some wet paint. I can foresee that in my near future, and then connect these guys like that. Well, that was fun. And then again, just see how high you did this one, come up, and then just make your mark a little bit below that, and then remeasure, come over here, give yourself a marker at about the same height. I'm going to reload my brush, and then just give myself my line going across, trying to keep my hand out of wet paint. And then I just kind of repeat this process. And this is, I think this is a little bit lower. I think as, you're building your painting skill set, I love to find ways to do things that make it so I do not have to rely upon specific tools. So if I can find a way to do these steps without having to use a ruler to measure every single step, that makes me happy. As I get up here, again, I'm making my steps a little bit more narrow, but they're not a ton more narrow, just a little itty bitty bit. So that's why, I teach you these type of methods, so that way you too can find a way or feel confident if you want to add a certain element to a painting. You don't get nervous that you don't have all the exact tools handy in order to create that the way that you're supposed to be creating it with those specific tools. I like to just, find a way to do things with minimal tools, so that way I can just be free. And then at this top one, I think this one's going to go just below my top edge here, so I can actually just watch the top edge of my canvas, and just hopefully that'll guide me in a pretty straight line, something like that. So once I have those lines on there, now those nice wobbly lines, now what I can do is just give myself the top of the steps. So as the steps go up, we're really just going to be seeing the edge or the little edge of the steps, but these bottom ones will see the tops to them. So I'm going to come up this section here, I'm going to come up almost halfway. So my halfway between here and here is about here. I'm going to be just a little bit below that halfway mark. And again, I can take this, measure it, come over to this side, give myself another measurement at about the same distance, and I can connect these. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this whole section in with my gray. So my light gray. You don't have to make it perfect. We're going to be doing some additional information on these steps. This is, again, is just kind of getting it started, having us understand where we want each top of the step to go and each bottom of the step to go. So that looks pretty good. The next one I'm going to do is we're going to skip this and then come up here. And again, from here to here, it's a little bit less than halfway. Here's halfway. It's a little bit less than that. So something like that. Again, you can take your measuring tool, your fancy measuring tool, come to this side, give yourself another marker, connect those guys like that, and then color in this section in through here. And you can see as I'm coloring this in, I'm not doing it a solid color because I want these steps to look like they are just being illuminated by the Halloween night, and have maybe there's cement steps. So, oops, that's going to have a pumpkin in front of it. And if you do something like that, don't worry. We've got big, huge pumpkins coming. So that's, again, another thing to not be worried about. Same thing up here, about halfway, and then drop it a little bit, something like that. Again, you could measure if you wanted to, or you could eyeball wherever your comfort zone is. And then give myself another step in through here. So again, I'm just painting it in with my light gray, but I'm not giving it a solid coat. So just allowing for, I don't want it to go down like that though, allowing for it to have a little bit of a textural or gradated type of appearance to it, but nothing major. And I'm probably only going to do a couple more of these with any kind of width on it. This one right here, I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to kind of go from this line and just make it a little bit thicker like this. And then the ones going up, I don't even know if I would see anything other than the edge to them. So you could certainly, if you felt the need to make them a little bit wider, you certainly could, or even straighten them out a little bit, smooth them out a little bit. But once I've got this, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little shadow underneath the lip of the step. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to be using black to do this. So when I do this, I'm going to take my black and I'm going to go below this line in through here. So again, the sections are going to be bigger down here and get smaller and smaller as I go up. So think of this as just the lip of the step. You're going to draw a line a little bit away from the top edge of the step, and then you can get this to go pretty dark underneath here. It doesn't have to be a solid line. This is just getting that front, the step itself to look like it's overhanging the step below it. So just this little lip or edge of it. So again, this is just one of those little details that'll give you some nice dimension on it. And so I paint the line on, and then I kind of blend that darker paint, that black paint, down into that section below. So that'll give that whole top of the step a nice bright edge. And I'm going to just do that to these other ones up and through here. So again, just a little bit of black, allowing for myself to separate that edge of the step. And then I can take that black and just kind of lightly blend it down, but keeping some of that gray showing. You can even use a little bit of water on your brush as you do this, in order, especially as you get to these smaller steps. And again, as I'm going towards the smaller steps, the lip or the edge of the step is going to get more narrow, this little gray section, as it would naturally do as it's getting farther and farther away. That looks pretty good. And just remember, we've got lots of our I almost just called them popcorn for so many pumpkins. Sometimes words just don't work out in my brain. So as I'm going up here, again, I know that I'm going to have these smaller and smaller as I go up. And we can always fiddle with this in the second stage to the steps, but this again is just kind of getting us started, allowing us to understand where the edges of these steps are. They don't have to be perfect because a lot of them are going to be covered with pumpkins, and that's going to take the viewer's eye away from anything that is not perfect. And then I'll just do these last couple up in through here. And then we're actually going to be using our chalk for the next step. So let me just get these last couple up in through here. I just added a little bit more water to my brush. So as I'm trying to do these smaller sections, I can blend it out just a little bit more. And again, just finding my area right below that, the edge of the step to give myself this nice dark line, and just continuing up. So it's a fun kind of line working process, but again, because these are spooky Halloween steps, they don't have to be perfect. Again, we know that there's going to be lots of our pumpkins that are going to be covering these steps. So right now, again, we're just kind of putting them in place, and we'll put all of our details on later. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out a drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to draw an outline for our jack-o'-lanterns. I'm going to be using my white chalk to draw. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. We're just going to be going for some really basic outlines for these pumpkins. You could, of course, you know, make yours more or less or different than mine. I'm just going to go for the exterior shape. I'll guide you into where I'm putting mine, and if you choose to put yours somewhere else, feel free to do so. So I want to have my pumpkins pretty big at the bottom and just kind of, you know, inviting the trick-or-treaters up this stairway. So I'm going to have a big, huge one over here on the right. I'm going to have this one, I would say, a little, he's going to be kind of starting on this line in through here. So I'm going to come right about here. I want the bottom of it to land on this step here. That's one thing that to be mindful of, is you want the bottom of the pumpkins to be landing on these light areas, because that's the top of the step. And so this one I'm going to have kind of coming in through here, and I'm going to just make a big kind of ovally fun pumpkin-y kind of shape in through there. I'm going to have two more kind of coming up this right-hand side, and they'll get smaller and smaller. So this one's going to be behind this one a little bit, coming in through here, and I'm going to have it kind of snuck behind the front of this one, and it's going to come up a little bit above this step here. So maybe something like this, and think of it as organic. These are natural shapes. They don't have to be perfectly round. You want them to have little lumps and bumps on them. They don't have to be anything, you know, perfectly round. I'm going to have the next one kind of sitting on this step and through here, and I'm just going to give myself a little pumpkin like that. Then on this side, I'm just going to have two. I'm going to have one sitting on this step and through here. And it's going to be, I want it to be a little bit taller than this one. So I'm going to have it kind of the top of it. The tops don't have to match up with any of the steps because the top is the front of it. So is going to be in front of the steps. So this one I'm going to have landing on this step in through here, and then kind of come in over like this. And then my next one I'm going to have up on this step here. And I'm going to have it maybe a little bit wider than this one. So I'm just going to kind of bring it out on this step over here, and then up in through here. So it's not quite as tall as this one. And this is just how I wanted to just kind of balance. Maybe that's a little bit too tall. Something in through here. So this is just kind of how I wanted to balance it with, I'm going to have the stems coming out and the faces, and that's all I'm going to be doing for my outline. I'm going to use my bright brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can make any little fiddling adjustments that you feel might be necessary. Put away your drawing utensil, take out the bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our pumpkins. I'm going to be using my number 6 bright brush. The colors I'm going to use are brown, burnt sienna, and orange. These colors will be transparent or translucent when we paint them on top of this background. So you will be able to see some of these lighter stripes through it. Don't worry about that yet, because we've got many steps to go. We're just putting down a foundation for these pumpkins. I'm going to be doing them darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. So I'll be going brown to burnt sienna to orange on the top. And I'm going to be painting in a directional brush stroke, which means I'm going to be kind of pulling up those grooves in the pumpkin and kind of starting that process with the dark color, and then the orange on top will be kind of counteracting that. So I'm going to start with some brown paint. I'm going to start with this little guy up in through here. I'm going to start at the bottom of the pumpkin, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull this brown up in a curved manner, as if it's coming up to wherever you want the stem to come out. So for me, my stem is going to be coming out somewhere in through here. So when I pull these up, I'm kind of pulling them around the pumpkin towards that piece up at the top. So I'm going to do this with my brown on all of them, and then I'll come back with my burnt sienna. So this guy in through here, he sits behind this one, and I'm going to have his stem kind of somewhere up in this vicinity. So I'm going to take it like this and just kind of pull up these grooves, if you will, towards that center part. And again, just kind of pulling this up, and the back side, which is going to be the right side, or the outside edges and the bottom, can be darker. So don't feel as if, you know, the darkness of this is going to overpower it in a negative way. This is definitely going to allow it to be nice and dark and nighttime-esque. So this one in through here, I'm going to have my stem kind of coming out up in through here. So again, I'm going to take my brown down at that bottom, and then I'm going to be pulling it up towards wherever I feel that that stem is going to be. So something like this, and around the pumpkin. So this pumpkin kind of comes out off my canvas, so I don't have to really worry about that right hand side of it, but in through here, I'm definitely going to kind of pull it up in these kind of groove type of ways. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other ones. So I'm going to start this one. My stem is going to come out up in through here. So I'm going to be pulling these kind of up in this direction. So they're pretty much very similar as you go through the process, as to how you're pulling those grooves up towards that stem, just knowing kind of in your head where that stem is going to be. So for me, this one, I'm going to have the stem kind of in through here. My bottom is going to be nice and dark in through here, and then just kind of pulling those grooves up. So the center, you know, the one that kind of goes right towards it, could almost be on a straight way, but you want to just kind of pull it around the curves of the pumpkin. So that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to start incorporating my burnt sienna. I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to pick up some burnt sienna, and the burnt sienna is going to be kind of the midsection of the pumpkin. So without washing my brush, I can just start incorporating this midsection, and I can also pull it in between those little grooves. So you'll start to see this, the shape of the pumpkin and the contours of the pumpkin just will immediately start to take shape. So you can really kind of start anywhere that you want. I'm going mostly midsection with the burnt sienna, and I'm going to kind of pull it over or integrate it a little bit with that brown as well. And again, like I said, the paint is going to be transparent, so you'll be able to see through it in some spots, if not in all spots, depending on what type of paint that you're using. But by the time we're done, you will not be able to see it through because of all the layers we're going to be putting on this. So again, just kind of using this burnt sienna in the midsection and allowing it to integrate with those grooves that I started with the brown paint, continuing my my directional brush stroke, which means I'm pulling it in a way that's in an illusional way that's making it look like it's going around the contour of that pumpkin. So something like this. And again, don't worry about a perfect blend or anything like that right now. We're just going for our base coat on here. And again, just continuing that same thought process in through here, accentuating those little grooves if I can. If I can't, no worries. And you could always, you know, use this burnt sienna along the edges if you felt that you wanted that exterior edge to be a little bit brighter. You can pull that that burnt sienna around there. But again, we've got lots of additional details that will help to accentuate those the edges. Because what will happen is, as you're doing a painting like this, especially with these dark tones, you might find that you've got a lot of stuff that's referred to as in the same tonal value. So even if it's a different color, it might be difficult to see next to each other because they're the same darkness or lightness as one another. So now I'm going to start going into my orange. I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to wipe it off on my paper towel, and I'm going to pick up some orange, and this is going to be the top section of my pumpkin. And again, I don't necessarily long for it to be super bright right now. This is really just starting my process of building these colors. So again, my stem's coming out over there. If you felt that you'd see a little bit of the edge of the stem or the edge of the pumpkin around the stem, you can certainly just kind of pop on a little bit of the orange. But this is the section where you can see, as I'm going to paint my strokes, I'm pulling it from where that stem is coming out of, and that's going to help to build this in a believable kind of way. And we'll be putting the faces on later, and that's going to help to accentuate all of this information that we're putting on as a base coat. I don't know if I'm going to see the back side of this, but I'm just going to put some orange there just in case. And again, just pulling my brush stroke out from that stem area in a curved manner. So that works for me in through there. I think I want maybe just a little bit more orange in through here just to kind of accentuate, again, these kind of grooves, if you will, like that. And then maybe just a little more over here too. There we go. That makes my painterly eye happy. And then I'll go ahead and do the same thing over on these little guys. And then once we've got this step done, let's see, what are we going to do for the next step? I think we're going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this first layer of your jack-o'-lanterns on here, you can wash and dry this brush. Just kind of make sure I've got that the way that I want it. You can wash and dry this bright brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the second step to the steps. Sorry, I'm going to say steps a lot in my head tonight. So I'm going to use my number 6 bright brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, brown, white, yellow, and maybe some of my light gray. So now that I have my pumpkins in place, I now know where all my lights are going to be coming from, which are going to be the jack-o'-lantern faces. So they're going to be casting kind of like some bright lights on the steps or some shine or glow on the steps. I also probably assumed that there's like a porch light or something on, because I'm thinking that this is the steps to somebody's trick-or-treating house or a spooky haunted house, and there's probably some lights on. So we definitely have some lights up above the jack-o'-lanterns as well. But since they're in place, now I can build my light sources on my steps and any shadows that might be caused by the pumpkins as well. So I'm going to, and we'll put some leaves and stuff on the steps later, but right now I just kind of want to get the textural element, especially on the top of those steps, nice and finished, and any little other details that I want. So I am going to have maybe some little cement grooves in a couple of these just to make it look like maybe there's a couple of pieces of steps. You could even do like little cracks and stuff. And I'm going to put some nice highlights and on them to give them that more realistic appearance to them, as well as shadows underneath probably just a couple of these pumpkins, because I see a little area where a shadow would be warranted. So I'm going to start with a touch of black paint and a touch of water on my brush. So black and water. This is going to help me to get maybe some grooves in the steps. So if I want to have maybe like a little groove in the step in through here, I can just kind of allow myself the carefree kind of ability. Maybe that's got something like that. You could even do like a little concrete type of like little seam or something. I'm going to do the same thing on this step in through here. Maybe this one's got one, maybe we'll put this one kind of like in through here like that. Maybe we see a little bit of it like that. And again, you don't have to do these type of details. This is just something I thought would be kind of neat to incorporate, but not necessary. And maybe something, little crease or something up and through there. So that's pretty good for that. Again, just minimal kind of information. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more black and put a nice shadow underneath any of the pumpkins that I think would we would be seeing the bottom of. So definitely a good amount of black on my brush in through here, giving myself a nice shadow underneath this guy in through here. Maybe just pull it out just a little bit in through here, as if maybe the light from above is casting a little bit of shadow from the front of the pumpkin as well. That looks good. Over on this guy in through here, we see the bottom of him. So, of him. I don't know why I'm making these gender designated. So that's something like that for that pumpkin. This one I'm not sure. Maybe just a tiny bit in through there. And same thing with this one in through here. Just an itty bitty bit of a shadow, maybe right in through here. If I felt also that there would be shadow behind them, I could definitely, like if I felt that this pumpkin was maybe casting a shadow on this wall or on the piece of the brick or step back here, I could certainly just kind of darken this whole area a little bit. This is a little bit of watered down black on my brush, and that would cast a shadow from this pumpkin onto the step that it's sitting in front of. So you can do those little effects. That might be pretty cool. This one, we don't even see the top of that step, but it might be, again, casting a shadow on the step behind it. So you can create those fun effects just by saying, okay, well, you know, I see this little step is here. Maybe that pumpkin's going to cast a shadow over there. And if that doesn't work out for you, you can certainly hide it with some leaves in a little bit too. So that looks good. Now I want to start adding my highlights onto my steps. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And I'm going to be picking up some brown with a little bit of white. So brown and just a touch of white, and I don't need a lot on my brush. And this is where I'm going to take that front edge of the step, and I can just kind of rub this lighter tone on it. The front edge is going to be, to me, the brightest, so that's where I'm going to be using the most white on my brush. But and as I work my way back towards the deeper part of the step, I can use a little bit more brown. But again, I'm just going for a really kind of textured cement type of a look. I'm not going for anything smooth. I'm not going for like a smooth granite or anything like that. So just something nice and messy will work out for me. White plus a touch of brown. And again, I'm illuminating the edges of these, of the top, the platform of the step. And then with a little bit more brown on my brush, I can just kind of, and I'm just kind of rubbing my brush back and forth, left to right. Make sure that that looks like it kind of goes behind that pumpkin. You don't want it to look like you're painting around the pumpkin, so you're definitely in an area where you are where the step goes behind that pumpkin. Definitely make sure that you, my canvas is making noise today, make sure that you bump into that pumpkin, because we're going to be cleaning up the edge of the pumpkin later. So this way it'll definitely look like you are like the step goes behind the pumpkin. I think that happens a lot of time when we do these details. We often make it look like we're painting around the objects as opposed to like the steps going behind the object. So over here, I can't forget this little guy over here, and same thing with this. And I don't have to make these really bright. I just want to add a little bit of a highlight on them. I'm going to put a little bit more, a little bit more brightness when I, in a minute, when I add like a little bit of a glow from the jack-o'-lantern faces. But right now I just have a little bit of white and brown on my brush to give me a little bit different tonal value of these of the top of these steps. So we started with a light gray color, and now because I'm kind of using these warmer tones, and I'm almost kind of right now just kind of skipping along the edge of this step, it's allowing me to get like almost like a gritty kind of look to the step. So it makes it look like it's got more, you know, little dirt, little, you know, autumn sediment on it or whatever. And I'm gonna put a little bit more, now I'm gonna go into a little bit of white and yellow. So tiny bit of white and yellow is on my dirty brush. And this is where, if I wanted to add even more in this highlighted part, especially where I feel the jack-o'-lantern face perhaps will be glowing on my steps, I can certainly put it in through here. I could also, in areas where the lip, I don't know my step terminology properly, but like in through here, I could certainly add a little tiny bit of a glow in through there, since my face is going to be right here and maybe casting quite a bit of highlight on the step in through here. So you could certainly do that as well, just an itty bitty bit in through there. And again, I don't need it to be really vibrant. This one I'm going to have the face kind of looking up a little bit, so maybe I've got a little bit on here. But again, once we get the faces themselves on, if you feel that you want any more vibrancy in these highlights, you can certainly add more later. But right now I'm feeling like this is looking pretty good as far as the intensity that I want it. I might go a little bit more white, maybe up towards these top steps. Maybe we've got a little bit more shine from some kind of light source up above. So that's just a little bit more white on my brush. And again, if you felt that the front part of these steps would warrant, you know, a tiny bit in through here, perhaps that would work. Maybe this guy's gonna illuminate in through here and here. And just those little subtleties will cast that light up and on those steps. And I'm thinking that's all I want to do for this step. So once you've got this done, you can make any little fiddling adjustments that you feel might be necessary. And then we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you could put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna paint the first layer of our facial features. So I'm gonna use my small brush, my number 3 round. The color I'm gonna use is just white. You can really have as fun of faces as you want, as scary as you want. They can resemble your family members, whatever you wanna do. I'm going to be putting the white paint in the areas that I want to be glowing from the inside of the jack-o'-lantern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to pick up a little bit of white paint with a touch of water on my brush just so I have a nice fluidity to it. And I'm going to do this big one first because he's a pretty basic kind of face that'll hopefully just kind of guide you through making this. This one's going to be pretty looking at the guest. So I'm going to have some triangle type of eyes in through here. I'm going to do my other one is going to be somewhere in through here. So you can shape these features whatever way you want. Once you've got your shape on there, you're just going to color the inside part with white paint. So this way we'll be able to get some nice glowing effects inside the pumpkin. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit more white paint here so I can get this filled in. And it doesn't have to be a solid coat, so don't feel the need to make it where you can't see through that white paint. We're using the white paint primarily as I like to refer to it as kind of like a primer coat. We're using it to block out those dark colors that we had initially put on. I'm going to have a little fun nose in through here, just a little triangular kind of nose with a curved bottom to it. So we could have painted the pumpkin around these, which we're going to be putting our highlights and stuff, but I want to know where the features are because I'm going to have it having a little bit more of an effect. So this is why I'm going to be doing it this way. So the bottom in through here, I'm going to have this kind of jagged type of mouth. And again, feel free to make yours into whatever way you want. You can, you know, Google is a wonderful resource. So if you want to, you know, find more expressive faces or, you know, different type of way to showcase your jack-o'-lantern smile or expression, there's so many different like clip art and stuff that can give you the inspiration to create these fun faces. You know, when I was a little kid, we just, you know, made our triangle eyes and cut out a smiley face for the mouth. But now with, you know, people just being so creative with the way that they can create these expressions, you can really get inspired by other people's thoughts when it comes to creating, you know, a fun holiday celebratory type of decoration like this. So just know if you're feeling a little bit limited in your creative capacity, as I do sometimes. Sometimes you just you want to do something, but you just can't figure, you know, nothing's coming out in your head as exactly what you want. Get inspired by others. That's, you know, people put work out there for inspiration, for you to take a look at and say, oh my God, I love those eyes. And, you know, maybe I'll put that with that mouth. I want it to be more spooky. So maybe I'll have it more menacing looking, or, you know, you can put eyebrows on, you can put teeth. So that's going to be my first one. And again, you can see I didn't do it super perfect, just kind of getting the base coat on there. Excuse me, I just swallowed wrong. So my next one I'm going to have this guy in through here. The eyes and the nose are going to be pretty similar to this one, but I'm going to have it a little bit more towards the side. So I'm going to have my triangular kind of eyes like this. And again, don't worry about perfection because we've got our glowing details and all that good stuff coming. So these are smaller and they're just kind of triangular type shapes. I'm going to have the nose coming right in through here like this. And then my mouth, I kind of want to have like a little, with a couple of fangs, like it's a little Dracula kind of mouth. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm putting the white where I want it to glow. So this is going to be the edge of the mouth. I'm going to have the other edge of the mouth somewhere in through here. And I could just do a smile, but I want there to be a couple of fangs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of outline where I want my fangs to go, like that. And then I can take and finish my smile line, but I got to skip that fang because that's going to be the part that has to remain pumpkin. So when I come down and do the bottom one, if I want a couple of little fangs down here, I'm going to outline a couple of little fangs wherever I want them. And then I can go from this edge of the smile right to that fang. And then I can, you know, skip right in through here and then do the same thing over here. And then I just have to color the inside with my white paint. So again, the white is going wherever you want it to glow. So if you want those effects of teeth, the teeth have to be part of the pumpkin, not the glowing part. So you'll want to leave those as the pumpkin color. I've got the one above this guy is going to have some little pupils, so I'll show you how to do those. And you know, I definitely am giving you a couple of different ideas for ways to create these mouths and eyes and stuff. And again, use it as inspiration. Make your own fun little, you know, expressions. You can put eyebrows. So my next one up here is going to have these fun little pupils and eyebrows. So if you want eyebrows, again, just put a little white wherever you want that glowing part to be. So those are going to be his eyebrows. Then if I want some eyes with pupils, I can do like, sorry, my hand's in the way. I'll get it out of the way in a second. I can do like a curve for the top. I'm going to have this one kind of a curve for the top. And then if I want the pupil like to look at the viewer, I got to give that my pumpkin space. So that's going to be the pumpkin. So I'm in essence kind of cutting out the pupil, or not cutting out, I'm leaving the pupil as part of the pumpkin. So something like that. That'll give you that look in through there. And then I'm going to have them having a open, just almost like ghost kind of fun mouth. So I'm going to just take it in through here and then just kind of give it like a little expression like that, and then just fill in that center part. So then I've got these two guys over here, and the top one is going to be a nice full face. The other one will be a partial face. So again, I'm just going to do some triangular kind of eyes for this guy in through here. And again, you could make them round, you could make them triangle, you can make them square, whatever you want. It's up to you. I'm just going to I'm going for some basic ones on some of them, and then some, you know, other kind of ones on the other ones. My white is pretty fluid right now, but if you're finding it difficult to get some clean lines, you can certainly use a little bit of water or liquid medium in your paint to get cleaner lines. The bottom mouth here, I do want to have a couple of teeth, kind of like little buck teeth. So again, I'm going to cut it out like I did those fangs. So I'm just going to take my white and kind of go, here's one tooth, here's another tooth, and now I can create his mouth. So I can start up here and kind of just bring it to the top part of that. I can have it over here, bring it to the top part of that. I'm not going to have any teeth on the bottom, so I just decide how I want to close out that bottom or open it up like that. And then I can just paint in the inside of the mouth like this. And now I've got a pumpkin with a couple of little buck teeth in the front, just two front teeth. Maybe he's a baby pumpkin and those are his first two pumpkin teeth that he has. So something like that. So this guy here, I'm going to have him with eyebrows, pupils, and he's going to be looking, he's only going to be partial. So and he's going to have a funny nose too. And he's going to have a couple of teeth. So I'm going to do the eyes. Well, let me do my eyebrows first. So I'm going to have eyebrow kind of up in through here. And then the other one is going to be just a little partial one. So it's going to start here and just go off my canvas. And then my eyes, I'm going to start with like a U type of a shape. So like this, going to bring it down like that. And I want there to be kind of a little pupil at the top. So I'm going to take this and give that. And then I can connect here to here and here to here, and then just color in the middle. So again, you could use this process with any kind of fun expression that you want to do. So that looks pretty good. And then the other eye, I'm going to see part of it, so I'm going to do a similar kind of portion of the U. I'm going to do my little portion of my pupil and then connect here to here and then color in this section in through here. And then I'm going to do a funny little nose. So this nose is going to be just a curved one like this, an upside down kind of like crescent shape. And then my mouth, I'm going to have 2 teeth on the top and 1 on the bottom. So again, I can just take an outline wherever I want those teeth to go, like this. And my bottom tooth I'm going to have kind of right in the middle of these two. So we're going to have this one kind of like this. And then I'm going to create the rest of my mouth. So I take it from the corner of my mouth, bring it to here, and then that's a tooth, so I can just go off my canvas with that one. And then on this side, this is just going to go right to the right side of that bottom tooth, like this. And then I will go right off my canvas on the other side. So like this, off my canvas, and then just fill in this section in through here. And then once you have this done, we are going to be using the bright brush for the next step. So I'm just gonna finish up filling in this. And again, just white paint, doesn't have to be a full-on perfect color. His mouth just grew there. And then once you've got this done, you could put this small brush away, take out your bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish the outsides of the pumpkins. I'm gonna be using my bright brush to paint, but again, I'm gonna use my number 3 round to pre-mix another custom color. So this color is gonna be our dominant highlight color on our pumpkins. The colors I'm gonna be using for this step are brown, burnt sienna, orange, red, yellow, and white. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to create, I'm going to call it, what am I going to call it? I'm going to call it tan, because it kind of looks like a creamy yellowy tan to me. This is going to be my dominant color for my highlights, which I have already created on my palette here. This is it. And how I got to this color is burnt sienna, yellow, almost equal parts of those, and white. And I spun them together. It almost looks like, now that I'm looking at my own skin, it almost looks like a little bit more yellow of a pale skin color. So this is my skin color here. My skin's a little bit pinker than this is, so a little bit more on the yellow side. But I'm still going to call it tan, because I don't really know what kind of color this is. Kind of like a blonde color, but we'll just call it tan for lack of a better name. So that's the color in through there. Now I can put my mixing tool away. My highlights are going to be on the tops of the pumpkins, on the where the main light source I'm saying is like a porch light. So it'll be on the tops of the pumpkins and on the grooves where it's going to kind of come over to curl over the edge of the pumpkin, taking on the contour of it. I still need to put another layer down on the whole orange part of the pumpkin. So I'll do a similar process with my brown, my burnt sienna, but I'm also going to incorporate perhaps a little bit of red in order to deepen some of these darker tones and give them a little bit more richness. And then I'll use my orange, yellow, and white up at the top with my highlight color to get that to pop a little bit more. You could, if you wanted to, keep the around the openings of the jack-o'-lantern. You could keep those a little darker if you wanted to make it look like the rind is kind of caving in a little bit. So if yours remains a little bit dark around those areas, don't worry, that's going to actually make it look more realistic. So I'm going to start with my dark and work my way to the light. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown paint to start. I'm going to start with this guy in through here, and then just kind of make sure that I have a nice second coat down at the bottom in through here. My brown will get darker as it dries, and I'm going to watch what I did the first time and just kind of enhance it. If I felt I needed a little black or anything, I could certainly go in for that to make some of these areas a little bit darker, but I'm thinking that that's going to work out just fine for me. Pulling up a little bit more of those brown creases. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna and red to just kind of enhance these darker kind of parts on the bottom of the pumpkin. And if you go into your facial features, don't worry about that, because we're going to definitely have opportunity to tweak those. I'd rather you bump into them than to make it look like you're painting around them. So just kind of bump right into them. You're going to want to make sure that you have enough paint so it looks like you've got a good second coat on there. I do feel like I want a little bit of black down here. I feel like it's too flat of an edge, so I just picked up a little bit of black to get myself a little bit more contour down at the bottom. Yeah, that's much better. Now I can see those grooves better at the bottom. So adding black to the color list on this step. So that looks pretty good. And again, just kind of softening it up, those grooves of the pumpkin. So I'm going to do my darks first, and then I'll come back and hit the lighter versions. So again, I'm going to go with a little bit of black and brown at the bottoms, because I liked what happened on that one over there. So, and this one, I don't have much of an area, just a little tiny bit to make sure that I've got kind of accentuated with those dark kind of grooves at the bottom. And then I'll again pick up more of my red and burnt sienna in order to get the second layer going up into the regular colors. So again, black with a little bit of brown. This little guy up here probably doesn't need a whole heck of a lot, but enough so I can definitely see those little grooves. And again, the right side or the outside edges of these pumpkins can be a little bit darker, as those are going to be the ones that are a little bit farther away from the light. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to just wipe my brush off on my paper towel, pick up a little bit of burnt sienna and red, make sure that I've got any of these little tones in here that I feel would work. And again, just making sure that I have a good second coat so I can't see through my paint anymore. I might in some areas need a third coat, but I'm gonna just kind of go with my second coat for now, and if I need to add more, I certainly will. And just making sure that that tucks behind there nice and well. So again, this is burnt sienna plus red on my brush right now. Again, just to kind of accentuate those warm tones as the pumpkin is going kind of into the darkness over here. And just maybe pull it up just a little bit past here. And we're gonna hit this guy with these tones over there on the right side. Again, burnt sienna and a little bit of red is on my brush in order to get this second layer near the bottom and over on those edges. And then I'll start building those little highlights. So again, don't worry if you bump into those features, the facial features, because we'll take care of that with the next step. So now I'm gonna hit a little bit of orange on that mid area. Now the mid area I did with burnt sienna on the first step. So now I'm going to be using orange and burnt sienna just to give myself my second coat. Make sure that I've got enough paint on these areas. And if I lose any of those grooves, I can always just pick up a little bit of black. If I want there to be more of a groove, I can certainly, I said black, I meant brown. You can pick up a little bit of brown to get those grooves to be more accentuated. But in a minute, when I put my my highlight on, the grooves will really take shape. You'll notice those in just a minute here. And again, you can see I'm bumping into my facial features, as I indicated I most likely would, in order to make sure that I've got that fully covered the way that I want it to. And again, I'm at orange right now. I'm gonna go into my highlight color in a little bit. And of course you could be in orange and burnt sienna if you wanted to. Either or, wherever your comfort zone is totally fine. And just making sure I've got all the way to those edges as well. This is where if I did have any of my my guidelines still showing, I could get rid of those. And I'm really just picking up orange. I thought I was going to be picking up orange and my burnt sienna, but I'm finding that I'm digging the orange, so I'm just rolling with it. And I'm just kind of putting that on up here, and then we've got this guy here, and then I'll hit my highlight color, and that's gonna bring all of this together, and it'll make it look nice and bright where I want it to look bright, and keep it dark where I want it to stay dark, because I'm gonna I think I want this to kind of accentuate a little bit more over in through here. That looks pretty good. And again, any areas that you feel might still be a little bit too transparent for your particular visual preference, you can certainly just wait a minute and do another layer on it. But I would wait to cast judgment until after we put the highlight on, because that'll change a whole lot of the appearance of this. Just give me a second to get there, and you'll see how it's gonna make an effect. There we go, that looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna hit it with my highlight. So I'm not gonna wash my brush, I'm just gonna wipe it off on my paper towel. I'm picking up that tan blonde type of a color that we created, and I'm gonna put this pretty dominant where I want those light areas to go. Kind of brush it out. That pumpkin just grew there on me a little bit. I'm lightly touching my canvas. I'm not touching it very hard. My light source is up there, so I'm putting the light part on that side of the groove, or the bumpy part, if you will, of the pumpkin. And you can see as I'm coming along here, I can put little bits up in through here, and you can even blend it into those darker areas. So as you're doing it, if you want more orange, pick up more orange. You can create these gradients as you are building the highlight. So know that it doesn't just have to be that highlight color. You can also be picking up the other tones. So I can be picking up more orange and get that to go a little bit darker in that little groove area, and you just kind of keep building it in that fashion. And even in through here, I can use my orange plus a tiny bit of my highlight as I come down this side, and that's going to just give me that appearance of that side being lit up a little bit. And then that looks pretty good. I think I want a little bit more orange in through here, and then just bring, you know, that additional layer wherever you need it to be, in order to give you that that visual final resting place for yourself that makes you happy. That looks pretty good. I'm digging that. Maybe a little bit more orange over here. And the bigger ones, you're going to obviously spend a little bit more time. I'm picking up some burnt sienna and red right now to just kind of touch up this back side over here. Looks good. There we go. And of course, again, you can leave around those the features a little bit darker, as that will enhance, make them kind of look like they are dipping in a little bit. Let me just get a little bit more in through here. And they don't have to be super smooth. You can another thing you can do is take your highlight and just kind of bump it along. It doesn't have to be a super smooth gradient, because these are pumpkins. They definitely can have that textural type of look to them. They don't need to be super duper smooth. So bring it again into wherever you know, makes you happy. I'm just kind of tapping it right now in order to give myself just a little bit of extra texture on these bumps in through here. There we go. He looks good. Now we're going to move on to the next one. So I'm going to do the same thing. Well, it doesn't really matter which one you go to next. I'm picking up a little bit of my highlight color. Just whatever order you want to do it in is totally fine. I'm going to put this highlight, and again, I'm going to put the highlight at the top of those grooves. And then knowing that I am going to be putting my my stems still have to come on, so I'm okay with this not being perfect up at the top, knowing that my stem is going to be coming on. But you can see how I'm just kind of pulling this in that directional brush stroke like I've been talking about the whole time. And I just picked up a little bit more of my highlight color and making sure that it's nice and light up and through there. And then I can pick up any color to finish it out. So a little bit of orange if I felt. I'm keeping those grooves, allowing for, you know, some of that textural kind of element to happen. I feel like I need a little bit more finessing on this back side. Make sure that that is fully executed. And again, push your brush a little bit, tap it, make it have a little bit of movement in it, or you know, different textural tones in that pumpkin. That's what's going to make it look the most natural. I'm picking up some burnt sienna and red right now, again, just to kind of close out this bottom, make sure that that is everything that I had longed for or hoped it would be. A little bit of my highlight. Was hitting this side one more time before I move on to the next one. And you can always accentuate those little tops of the area. Again, just popping that on in through there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next one. Now, as I get to the smaller ones, they're smaller, so they don't need as much work. And if you felt that you wanted to use a smaller brush to do these little ones, feel free to do so. You don't have to go with the same exact brush that I am using. I love to use, you know, minimal tools as I go through my process, but that is not always the way that works best for everybody. So when you are doing yours, if you feel that you would like to use the smaller brush through this process, feel free to do so. That's your call. I'm picking up some more orange on this back side. I mean, you could have white pumpkins. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going over here. And again, the highlight is on the inside of them. So just taking that highlight color and pulling it down here. And I'm watching where my dark grooves are. So that's where I'm gonna keep that, keep them a little bit darker. And then I've got the top area that I want to make sure kind of resembles that lit up part. And again, I'm going to have my stems, so that'll help give more form even still. A little bit of orange just went on my brush to just kind of accentuate the orange pumpkin color. Make sure that it's got that traditional feel to it. And that looks pretty good. And maybe just a little bit more of the highlight color up top just to accentuate those. And then same thing down here, just a little bit of that orange or the highlight color along this edge, and definitely up on these top pieces. And again, you might find as you're doing yours that, you know, maybe you want yours to have more of a yellow glow and you want to use more yellow than I'm using, or you want to use more of the orange than I'm using. I'm finding that I'm digging just kind of having them a real kind of organic color. But if you wanted yours to be more, you know, of a illustrative type of way, more painterly kind of way, feel free to do so. And again, you can see I continue to paint into my facial features, and that's just because I know that I will be finishing those in a little bit, and this is just giving me my second coat and allowing me to really make this look nice and cool. I think I'm going to pick up a little bit of my burnt sienna And you can always, like I just pulled in a little bit more burnt sienna in that groove, or brown. You can pull burnt sienna, brown, if you felt like some of your grooves weren't groovy enough. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I feel like I just want to hit these highlights one more pass really quick with my highlight color. And I think I want to go highlight plus a touch of yellow and white, just to kind of give it one more bump of brightness. So this is my highlight color plus a little bit of yellow and white, just to amp that little top highlight up just a smudge, give me just a little more excitement on that top area, maybe a little bit more yellow too. Yeah, there we go. And again, if you felt you wanted more orange, you know, this is that part where I would just kind of keep fiddling as I'm kind of coming into my, I feel like I'm almost done this particular step. This is where I would sit and kind of fiddle with these little bits of different tones. So again, yellow and white, and my highlight color is just giving me just a little extra punch on these highlighted areas to accentuate those little grooves. That looks pretty good. And then once you've got this done, we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, and again, fiddle. Don't feel that because I'm done with my step that you have to be done with yours. So you can certainly feel free to just continue to tweak until you get it into a place that is definitely appealing to you, and then you've given yours enough attention that you want to give it. And then once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and just get this little guy up here. That's good. I might fiddle a couple more minutes, but this is pretty good for now. So you just get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna paint some pumpkin stems. I'm gonna be using my number 3 bright brush. The colors that I'm gonna use are black, white, and yellow. Maybe a little bit of brown as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix myself a custom green color, and we're going to use that as a base coat, and then we're going to add some strategic highlights and shadows in order to give them a little bit of dimension and a little bit more realistic look to them. So I have pre-mixed my custom green color on my palette here. How I achieved this was a whole lot of yellow, and then you just add a touch of black into it, and it's going to turn it into this really nice earthy kind of green. So I'm going to use this as my base coat, and then we'll make some fun details after that. You can have your stems going in any which direction that you want. I'm going to have mine coming out of whatever dark area I had already created and just put a thin coat of this black. You can also kind of tuck it into or make it look like it's kind of almost fading into that dark area. But if you don't get that, I'll show you how to do it with the next step as well. I'm going to give them kind of a curve when I can, and if I can't, then they'll be straight. But I think this one I can kind of curve and then just kind of fade into that little dark hole that I have. And then same thing up and through here. We're just going to give this one a little curve going in that direction, and you can have them any way that you want. You could even have them with the like the curly vine things coming off of them, so just make it whatever way you want. You could also put one in front of the pumpkin behind it. That'll make it look like it is giving it an additional piece of dimension. So those little tricks, if you can get them in there somehow, those are the things that will bring it into the next level. So this one in through here, I think I want this one. This one's going to come out of this area in through here. Just kind of get that to fade into that. And then I want it to take up a good amount of this space back here. So we're going to just bring this like this. And again, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to actually get it to almost come right to that edge in through there. And of course they don't have to be, I'm really in a perfect curve, because pumpkin stems can be like all bumpy and stuff. So just use your imagination. That's the name of this game. Make it yours. So once I've got that initial layer on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some shadowy areas in it, and then we'll come with a quick pass with some highlights. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to pick up some black paint, and I'm going to put my shadow on the side, the opposing side from the light source. So the insides, so these left ones, the right side will be bright and the left side will be dark. And these right pumpkins, the left side is going to be light and the right side is going to be dark. I hope I said that right. So I have black on my brush, and I'm going to just kind of make sure that it kind of goes into that pumpkin with a kind of a soft, kind of blended brush stroke. And then you can even pull up some little twisty marks. So something like that will give me a good illusion. I also want to make sure it looks like it's really in the pumpkin. So if you have to finesse any of the areas that it's touching the pumpkin, just kind of give that a light pass. And if you needed to, you could certainly pull out any of your other colors to work around that. Like, actually, I feel like I want to pull out some orange. Hold on. I'm picking up some orange. I didn't say I was going to do that, but we got orange now. So just to get that to enter a little bit more natural in that little one spot, just to make my painterly eye happy. There we go. And now I'll go and put my shadows on the other guys. So wiping my brush off, picking up a little bit of black. And again, my dark side is over in through here. So something like that. And even this one, because it's curved, maybe my dark side is under here. And again, I can twist, I can make some little kind of twisty brush stroke marks in order to give it that traditional kind of appearance like a pumpkin stem. And again, just a little bit more black on my brush. This is going to be on the right side. So I'm going to make sure that it enters into the pumpkin. I'm going to give it some little twisty marks. Make sure that kind of blends and covers. I don't want to be able to see through my paint. So like that. And then I think I want to pull this twisty kind of up like that. That looks good to me. And then I'm going to go do my other ones. So again, right side, shadow, down by where it enters into the pumpkin, a little shadow, and then some little twisty marks on that right hand side will give you that illusion of the pumpkin way, the pumpkin stem way. And then same thing on this one, little right side. And then there, that's just a little tiny one. So now I'm going to put my highlights on. So I can't remember what colors I said I was going to use, but I think I'm going to use some brown and white for my highlight. Brown and white. And then again, just kind of on my highlighted side, I'm going to just highlight it and pull my twist kind of in between where the dark twist was on the opposing side. So again, brown and white, brightest on this little tip up in through here, and then just kind of pull it down. And not getting rid of all of my green, just allowing for it to integrate with it. So that looks pretty good. And doing the same thing, white and brown. And I just kind of keep repeating the step. So white and brown up in through here. And just pulling it kind of in between some of those little twisty grooves. And if you feel that you did too much, or that you want to do more, you can certainly, like this one, I'm just going to let it grow over that little edge of that back pumpkin. So I don't want to deal with the back pumpkin anymore, so I'm just going to do that. I feel like I want a little bit more brown on this too, so I just picked up a little bit more brown. So you can really just kind of keep tweaking it until you've got those grooves the way that you want. If you want it to grow, make it grow. There, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this top one, or the second to the top one, white and brown. Put my little my little tip on, which is closest to my light source. So it needs a little bit more white on it, and then just kind of pull my brown. And if I needed more green, like brown, white, and green can certainly be your highlight colors. If you want more of that greenish tone in them, just pick more of that green up, and you can really get a pretty vibrant green on there to show that little twist if you felt that that would you know, be visually appealing to you. So something like that will totally work. That's a little bit much on the top. And then this little guy up here, so white and brown, start it the way that I did the other ones, and then just kind of allow for that little twisty thing to happen if I want it to or not. And then once you've got that done, we are going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna paint the base coat for some leaves. I'm gonna be using my number 3 round brush. The colors I'm gonna use are yellow, burnt sienna, orange, and red. And that's all the colors I'm gonna use. We're gonna make some details on them later, but I just kind of want to put them in place right now, and then we'll go finish our jack-o'-lantern faces, and then we'll come back and do some details on our leaves. So I want these to just be kind of carefree, like they're just laying on the steps. So the most obvious place to put them is on the light gray areas. You can put them kind of like hanging over, but that would be the smartest place to put them to make it look the most, I think, realistic. I suppose they could be falling through the air, but I think that would run the risk of confusing the viewer. So I think I'm going to just put some on here, maybe at the base of some of my pumpkins. If you want them to look different than your pumpkins, use a lot more red and yellow as opposed to the orange and the burnt sienna. So that way they'll have a little bit more contrast. We will be using a lot of yellow inside the pumpkin glowy faces, but on these guys out here, I'm going to start with just red and make some with red, and then I'll integrate some other colors. So you can make as many different shapes of leaves as you want. If you make them bigger on these bottom steps and smaller up top, again, that's going to give you your more realistic kind of approach to it. So as I'm doing these, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, they're just kind of laying on the steps. So I don't need them to be really up and perky and standing up. I can just kind of have them laying down, and that's going to give the viewer the information that, you know, it's just kind of resting on that step. So that'll be kind of my first one. You can certainly have maybe, you know, a little one maybe kind of coming up on the edge of here. And when I think of autumn leaves, so this one maybe is like, maybe this one's kind of resting on this pumpkin in through here. When I think of autumn leaves, I'm often kind of in my head seeing like a maple leaf type of style, because that's a lot of the leaves where I come from. That's what is on my yard all the time. So those are generally the kind of leaves that, you know, I emulate, but you can certainly make whatever kind that you want. So I don't know if I want many more on there. I'm going to do my red ones first, and then I'll come back and do some other color ones. I think I want to skip that step. Maybe I have one kind of poking out behind this guy and through here. So again, you can have them resting, you know, leaning against the step. You can just have kind of a organic kind of shape. You can have them just little dots if you want to have just like maybe a couple of them are piled on top of each other. You could have a couple just little dots. Just think about it being carefree and chaotic as opposed to organized. So I think maybe I'll have one or two just kind of up in through here. And again, these I'm going for them on top of those light rows of steps, and I think maybe I'll just carry the eye up into this corner a little bit, and just maybe a couple of little tiny ones up and through there. So that's good on my red. I'm just going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up some orange, and you know, I don't need a lot. I don't even need many. So maybe I have a little orange one kind of next to this red one in through here. Maybe I have I'm like, I don't want any more. Maybe I have just a little pile in through here, maybe just a teeny one in through there. We'll put a couple up in here with this guy too. And as you get into the smaller ones, they could just be polka dots or just little mark making. It doesn't have to be full on, let's make this look like a leaf, but the bottom ones would make sense to have those really more in your face and believable tone. I'm gonna not wash my brush, and I'm gonna pick up orange, yellow, and burnt sienna. So right now I have all 4 colors on my brush, and I feel like I want maybe one in through here. Maybe this one kind of leans over the step a little bit. So maybe something like that will give me a little bit of a one that looks like it's just kind of leaning over. You could even kind of have it hanging. We'll put little shadows underneath it, but that I think looks pretty cool like that. And maybe I'll put another yellow burnt sienna E1 kind of sitting next to this guy in through here. And again, I'm just thinking of just like little pointy tips to them, and I will make them look a little bit more realistic as I or at least just these few that are down at the bottom as I put my details on. But I'm thinking that that looks pretty good. Maybe a couple little yellow dots up and through here just to kind of accentuate those guys. And then, well, maybe that one, I like that one just kind of popped up like that. I'll have one that's kind of popping up like that. And those little accidental organic marks, that's what's going to make it look nice and realistic. I think that's all I want to do for those. You could, of course, put some green ones too, because you have that green color that was created for the stems. You could certainly use that as additional color. Maybe we've got this one. I just added a little bit more to this one, so it looks like maybe it's just popping up just a little bit more. And then we're going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got your leaves just, you know, placed carefree wherever you want them to be, add as many or as few as you want. Maybe we've got one just kind of over here as well, maybe a little partial one. Once you've got them where you want them, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the glow inside of our jack-o'-lanterns. I am using my number 3 round brush. The dominant colors I'm going to be using are white, yellow, and red. And if I need to go into any of my orange, I will, and I'll let you know. I might also do some kind of little edging of the rind too, so I might go into some brown and orange as well. But what I'm going to first do is I'm going to start with some white, and I'm going to clean up any of my edges that I really kind of bumped into an exceptional amount. Like these eyebrows, they almost disappeared. So I'm going to just use a thin layer of white just to make sure I don't miss those and that they have that light background behind them. I don't need it to be super perfect. I just want to make sure that I get that vibrant tone from the glow. And if this, if the background underneath them is too dark, I might miss out on some of that really cool effect that I wanted to have. So I'm just going through quickly and making sure that any of those really dark spots, like I've got a dark red spot here, I'm going to just kind of quickly go over that with a thin coat of my white paint, and then I'll be ready to rock and roll to put some cool glow in these little features Let me hit this nose in through here. And I'm doing glow, so it, you know, the color that I'm going over is probably going to be part of the glow color anyways, but I just want to ensure that as I go through my painting process that I struggle the least amount. And I know that I will struggle the least amount if I can get, if I have this started with a nice light base. So this works out pretty well for me in through here and here, and then I won't worry about it. So once I've got my little cleanup process done, I am going to go in for some glow. So the glow, for me, in my head, I see it mostly that the candle within is usually down at the bottom. So if the candle is down at the bottom, the brightest part would probably be in through here, and then everything else kind of dissipates and is less bright after that. So I will go for my brightest of my bright part, usually kind of down at that bottom area, and then we'll make it less bright as it goes farther away. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And I've already got a really great start with the white, but I'm going to put even more white in that area that I feel is going to glow the most. So for me, I've got my white on my brush, and I'm going to really make sure that this part in through here is pretty, you know, as white as I feel I need it to be. And if I feel that this is also going to carry up into here, you know, some of that bright, just make sure that that's nice and bright. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and white. So yellow and white is on my brush right now, and I'm going to get this to go out. So my brightest of my bright is kind of that nucleus of where I just kind of said it was going to be. And now I'm using yellow and white to get it to go darker as it drifts away from that central kind of candle spot. So just using my yellow and my white to go farther and farther away from that central bright spot. And you could premix yourself a light yellow color, but I'm going to get mine to go even darker the farther away that I go. So I know that I can certainly just use both colors on my brush at the same time, and I'm going to be pretty darn successful with getting it into the color that I want. And if I need it more yellow afterwards, I can always come back and add more yellow on top of it. So this is looking pretty good. I'm going to pick up more yellow now. So I'm dropping the white and just picking up yellow as I'm going farther out towards the edges. And you can paint the rest with the yellow right now. So once you've got that initial light part and you fade it out a little bit with yellow and white on your brush, you can then carry that yellow all the way out to the edges, because we're going to put a little reddish hue on top of it in a minute, but we can do that reddish hue on top of this yellow without worrying about it. So I'm just going to bring this yellow all the way out for ease of painting, and then I will come back and put my orange kind of glow on the edges in once this dries. So I'm going to do this same process to all of them, all of my openings. I'm going to figure out where I want that brightest spot to go, and then I'll fade it out into the yellow, and then I will I'll come back and put my I think that needs to be a little bit lighter in through there. I'm going to pick up just a little bit more white. There we go. Just get that a little bit lighter. There we go. So again, in through here, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to pick up some white paint. I feel it's going to be the whitest or lightest in through here. Oh, I guess I still had a little bit of yellow on my brush, but that's okay. I'm going to put a little bit in this nose, because I want that to be pretty light also. That looks good. So now I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and yellow and just move my way out. So this is a little bit of white and yellow, and moving myself out away from that central point. And there's a million ways that you can do this. You could have painted it all with the light yellow first and then come back and just accentuated that really bright part. You could have painted it in progression from the dark to the light. So whatever way is kind of more easy for you to do, that's the way that I always suggest doing it. Whatever way is easiest for you. And then I'm just moving my way out to the dark like this. And the bigger ones, of course, will take longer to do, and the little ones will be a little bit easier to do. But once you get your groove and you figure out the way that you want to do it. Now I'm just picking up yellow just to get those the exterior spots. Once you get your groove of the way that you want to do it, everything becomes an easier process in painting the more you paint. So just know that if you're going through this and you want it to be more painterly and you don't want to put these more detailed effects in, you can still get the same fun painting, and you can have the same joy in creating it, and you can develop these kind of skills over time. But just having these thoughts, and I'm going to repeat this on everyone, so starting with white, being able to understand how to build colors like this and get these type of special effects is really neat to understand, and it will help you develop your own designs and things of that nature, where you can just incorporate this type of effect. You can use this as a candle making effect. You can use it as lights in a window. There's all different, scenarios that this type of process would work in. So you can use what you learn in a fun painting like this. And if you want to, explore being more painterly with it, that's awesome. But if you can utilize these techniques in other paintings. So again, just washing my brush, putting some more white on, going for my bright area. So I feel like the nose is going to be pretty darn bright. And the more contrast you have in this, the more it's going to look like it's glowing. So, and what I mean by that is, the lighter it is to the darker it is, it's going to look more glowy. So by the time, because I'm going so light with my white in the middle, when I get to my orange and my reds at the exterior, this is really going to look like it's glowing a lot, because I'm gonna use a high contrast with the yellow and the red as I work my way towards the exterior, and that's going to make it look really nice and glowing. So again, I'm just kind of using my yellow and white right now, and I'll use a little bit of just yellow probably in those eyebrows, because they're farther away from my light source inside my candle. So it's always about a light source, right? We always have the drama of a painting can be created by just utilizing that light source. So that it's always a great tool to use. That looks pretty good. I think I need a little bit more yellow over in through here. Here we go. And then we got one more up here, and then we'll go ahead and add our reddish glow to the edges. And if I feel I want to do, I might do a little three-dimensional little detail on the rind, the little edges that you can see along the sides of the openings. So that looks pretty good. I'm picking up a little bit of orange and yellow, get myself to go a little bit farther away from that light source with the orange and yellow on my brush, and then I will use this up in these other guys up in through here. And again, just yellow and white is what I'm using right now. Maybe this one goes a little bit more yellow. And now I'm gonna hit it with red and yellow, the exterior, so wash and dry my brush. So I'm gonna use red and yellow. You could certainly use a little bit of orange too. It's gonna be up to you how dramatic you want these glowing effects to go. I just kind of wanted to maybe have the glow look a little bit different than the color on the pumpkin. So the red and the yellow is going to give it just a smudge different of an orange tone. So as opposed to my chrome orange, it's probably going to be pretty similar, but this will just help to make it look maybe a little bit different than the exterior orange that I have. And I'm just kind of putting it around the outside edges of my glowing area. So something like this, and just kind of rub it into that bright yellow. And if you feel that you need or want more yellow, just pick up a little bit more yellow just to get it to blend a little bit more. That'll help you out. And that looks pretty good. And then I'll go do the other ones. Let's get that to rub in just a little bit. I think I need a little bit more in this nose too. There we go. That looks cool. And again, my red and my yellow to give me these little effects on the outside of these glow areas. So this is just making it look like there is more dimension inside the jack-o'-lantern, and that, you know, it's just giving it this really super cool glowing effect. So I don't have any other fancy words other than that. So you can make it into, again, whatever kind of dramatic glow that you want. I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm just moving on with, again, my red and my yellow, making this have this glowing effect. And ooh, I missed this guy's eyebrows. I just noticed that. I'm going in for a little white. I don't know if I can get them to really have a huge effect, but I'm just noticing now that I missed them because they got hidden by when I was going over the pumpkin, so it's okay. So this is cool, a little bit of orange there, or the red and the yellow. So red and yellow gonna go back in these little guys. The eyes, yeah, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see those a lot, but that'll be good enough. And again, just yellow and red. And I keep repeating this process. Gonna put this on these eyes and through here are the eyebrows. And then I just am using just a tiny bit of paint on my brush to get this effect. You could certainly use more or less wherever your intensity desires lie. And I'm just trying to get it to be a little bit more dark as it's away from that light source. And then again, red and yellow, and trying to just give it a nice glowing effect. I'm going to pick up a little bit more yellow on this one in through here, maybe just little touches here and there. And you might find, you know, once you get this done, that you want to add more to it or subtract. You can always reverse anything that you might think is too bold. You can reverse it by just painting it back white. So if you're going through this process and you're like, oh my God, that doesn't look right at all, you can certainly just paint it back white and then just come back through and repeat the process with the layering of it. And that's just a nice, easy way that you can make any little fiddling corrections if you feel that you need to. And then once you have this done, if you did want to do any kind of 3D type of effect to show like the inside of the rind or anything, you can certainly take like a little bit of brown and orange. And if the light is here, you could certainly kind of just show a little bit of the edge of that rind if you wanted to. Like you would just catch a little bit of part of the edge. Not necessary, but if you did feel that you wanted to kind of see the textural element inside the cut of the pumpkin, you can certainly just add this every now and again. It doesn't have to be, you'd almost only see it depending on what angle you were at as the viewer or as the person walking up the stairs. You might just see it on some of them, not on all of them. So if you feel you'd like to do that, great. You could also add little highlights and stuff here and there on the edges of the pumpkin where it's cut open, but I think I'm going to not opt to do that because I'm kind of digging the way that it's looking now. So I think I'm going to just roll with this, and we are going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So once you've got this on, make any little adjustments that you feel you would want to, and then we're gonna use this same brush for the next step so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish our leaves. I'm gonna be using my small round. The colors I'm gonna use are red, yellow. I might actually use some of that green, white, black, maybe some orange. I think that's it. If I missed any, I'll call them out as I use them. So what I'm looking to do, these ones that are closest to the viewer, I do want to give them a little bit more detail so they look a little bit more realistic. And then the ones going up the top, we're just gonna have some fun and do some mark making. I'm going to be putting a shadow underneath the leaves and highlights on the top, and then if there's any other little details that I feel are necessary to accomplish the look that I want, I will certainly do that. So I've already forgotten the colors I said I was going to use, but I'm going to start with a touch of black and brown on my brush. So black and brown, these are going to be my shadow making colors. So I can sit and my light source is up top as well as my jack-o'-lantern, so I can really have some dramatic kind of shadows underneath these leaves in order to explain to the viewer what's going on. So I'm just kind of underlining the bottom side of the leaf. If I want this part to look like it is off the ground, I can put my shadow a little bit away from it. So I can say, okay, well, my shadow comes in through there. So that's going to give the viewer the information that that part of the leaf is off the ground. I can also do that right on the tip. So if I want this tip to look like it's curled up a little bit, I can put a shadow right in through here and then just pull that shadow away from the tip of that leaf. And now that looks like it is off the ground. So again, just little tricks like that will help you to make these look a little bit more realistic. So I can take this, and this is just a little flat one in through here. But if I wanted it to look like two, I could put a little shadow in between, and now I've got two of them sitting next to each other or right on top of each other. I could, for this guy in through here, I could have this one putting a shadow right on the stair in through here. So that'll, I think I need a little bit more black than that because it's on top of a pretty dark surface. So I can put a shadow there, maybe a little shadow on this piece in through here. It probably wouldn't shadow that anymore because that's black and it's a little bit away. But if you wanted it to look like a drop shadow, like it's a longer shadow, you can certainly pull down a little point, and now the viewer's gonna think that that's making that shadow in through there. So those are, again, just little tiny tricks. I'm gonna do my shadows on these other ones down here, so black and brown. And if I wanted my my leaf to really look like it was, you know, kind of full, I can put my shadow can be thicker, it can be wider in nature. So that's going to make that look like that leaf has a little bit more body to it. Like I feel like I want to put a little bit more in through here too. That looks pretty good. There we go. And then I've got these guys in through here, so black and brown. And I like to use black and brown a lot of times as my shadow maker, especially when I'm doing these dark shadows like this, because I can control that black a little bit better. I feel like I want to bring this out to there. That looks good. It's just a thing that works for me, but That looks nice. I'm gonna put more right in here. This definitely can be really shadowed in through here. Maybe that little area kind of pops out. And then this little guy, maybe this one's up too. That looks good to me. Gonna bring some more shadow underneath this right here. And you can see I'm only doing one side of the leaf. So that's gonna tell the viewer that it's three-dimensional. If I went all the way around, that would flatten it right out. That would just look like I'm outlining it. So I'm putting these shadows where I think that they make the most sense. So like maybe this one's casting a little bit of a shadow on that back wall of the step. So something like that. Maybe there's a little shadow in between these two, like that. Maybe there's a little shadow underneath in through here. So you can, of course, imagine those shadows to be wherever you think they would be appropriate based on where that light source is coming from. And then these little guys in through here, I'm just gonna pop these little dark marks underneath and between them because they're all kind of like layering on top of one another. And then these guys up here, I might not even see the shadows on the top guys because they're so up and the point of view is right here. So if my point of view is right here, my shadows, I might not even see them. If you feel that you would see little dark marks in between or maybe a little cast the little shadow on the wall behind them, you could certainly make a couple of little dark marks, but I don't think I would necessarily see them. So once I've got my shadows on, I'm going to wash and dry my brush and I'm going to go in for some little highlights. Again, I don't need much for highlights, but I want to have a little bit of, I want to make sure that I have them fully painted and that I have a little bit of, you know, a little bit of a highlight. So I'll start with this one in through here. I think I want to actually go for some red and a touch of white on my brush. So red and white, give myself maybe just a little kind of, I see that I've made this leaf edge pop up because of what I did to the shadow. So I just added a little bit of highlight in through there. And then maybe I can just add some little highlight on this side because that's where the my jack-o'-lantern is. So just add a little fun highlight in through here. Maybe make it look like there's some little parts to the leaf that are showing the veins or whatever, just kind of bringing this out. You could also put a dark stem on if you wanted. You can pick up, I just wiped my brush, picked up a little bit of brown. I could put a little darker area for the stem if I want. If I wanted the yellow side of it to be a little bit brighter, I can pick up a little bit of yellow and white and just pop on a little, that was a little bit too much white, but that's okay. Pop on just little tiny highlights. I don't need much. I just want something that's gonna read as fully painted. So I don't want my leaves to take over the scene, but I definitely feel as though they could they could be complementary to my scene. So that looks pretty good to me. So this one in through here, I definitely want to have some, I'm going yellow, orange, and white is going to be my little highlight color for here. And I'm just going to kind of give myself these little pieces coming out and making it look like it's got that almost kind of veiny look to it. So yellow, orange, and white. And you can make your autumn leaves whatever color you want. I'm now going to pick up just a little bit of white to give this right side a little extra pop. That looks good to me. And maybe a little more yellow. It's hard to stop. Once they start coming alive, it's like, ooh, I like that. Let me do more of that. And these little guys down here. So those are the two main ones. And then these little guys here, I've got the yellow and my white on my brush. So I'm just going to kind of tap these little tips, maybe pick up a little bit of orange. I'm really just kind of looking for a second layer to make sure that I haven't missed anything. And if I can get a little bit of that veiny type of look in there, great. If not, no worries, but that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to pick up a little bit more red just to get this in this little tip of that one. That looks good. And then this guy over here, I'm going to pick up red, orange, and white. And I just like playing with the multiple colors on my brush in order to give me the variety, especially when doing autumn leaves, because they just have so many different color variations. So you can really have fun with creating your own kind of color palette when it comes to the highlights and stuff like that, because you can have one leaf that has 6 different colors in it. So don't feel ever, especially when doing like an autumn leaf type of display, that it has to be one solid color. It looks much better when it's not one solid color. It'll look way more you know, organic in nature if you can incorporate these different tones into it. So I'm just flipping back and forth between red, orange, yellow, and white at this point. I was thinking I was going to use a little bit of that green, but I'm digging the way that it's coming out, so I'm going to pass on that. And then just little pops of little highlights. I'm really, again, just kind of looking to make sure that I'm done and that I don't have any little spots that are that look unpainted, especially in these little polka dotty areas. They don't need much at all because it seems like I used a good amount of paint on that first go around. So just kind of letting my brush kind of wiggle a little bit to create these little highlights, and then I think that that's all I want to do. So once you've got this done, we are going to be using our small brush for the next step. I'm actually going to go into that green and white. I know, you know, sometimes maybe just a touch in this little leaf right here. There we go. I know that didn't make much of a difference at all, but it did in my brain. So we're going to use this same small brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I'm going to be using my small brush. I'm going lower left on this one with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials. Ooh, where am I going to put this? I think I'm going to put it, well, this is a tiny spot. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you, of course, can sign yours however you want. You can make up a special symbol. You can sign it on the back. You can use your full name. You can use the date. Whatever you want for your identifying mark to be is up to you, because it's your painting and you get to mark it as you see fit. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a really cool Halloween inspired creation, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.